Hello and welcome back to Love, Light and Bullshit Bingo. Today we have a special guest. If you are watching, you'll be able to see her little ears and her little teeth dug into my hand. If you are not, let me tell you that my puppy, who doesn't look very puppy is anymore, is sitting on my knee and is probably going to be in front of the camera. So if you normally listen to this podcast, and you are a dog person, my invitation to you is go and check us out on YouTube today. Watch, because you'll have some lag at that madness. Anyway, hello, I am Karen.
And I was going to say, when you go to YouTube, just like and subscribe and all of that. So can we use your puppy as a marketing exercise for us to get more followers?
In full parallel today, but yes. Sorry, yes. So I am Karen, and this is my wonderful co-host.
Yolandi, yay, we're here.
And today we have, I don't even know what to call this one. It's just an interesting topic, isn't it? About power, about control, about overwhelm, about hope, about all of the things, about patriarchy. I don't know. Can you describe it any better?
Well, we started off the conversation about like, what are we going to talk about today? Because we have a big long list and all that type of stuff. And I was like, well, patriarchy came up a lot in the last few weeks. And then it was kind of like a lot of the other things we've been thinking about, talking about kind of bled into it. So we're like, we need to actually explore this a little bit deeper. So yeah, I think we're going to start there and then check where the discussion leads us, because I think it's a big thing that's coming up at the moment. Like everyone's blaming the patriarchy. So let's go from there.
And don't we always, and let's be clear, Lagatha is going mad, I'm very sorry. Don't we always, let's be clear, the patriarchy, there's a lot to blame them for. Patriarchy is evil. You know, all of the aspects of patriarchy, be it white supremacy, be it colonization, be it whatever we want to call it, patriarchy is evil. And let us say here and now that in having this conversation today, we are not suggesting that's not the case. Hell, we have both to different degrees written books about how that's the case. But what we are saying is that, you know, I ran a workshop the other day for Solstice, for example, and in the workshop, it was all about Lilith. The workshop will be available on YouTube soon. Small plug. And as we were doing the Q&A at the end, a lady said, I just feel so much rage when I think about this, when I think about what happened to Lilith, when I think about what has happened to her in all the years since. I feel so much rage and I don't know what to do with that. It almost feels so overwhelming that I feel crushed by it. What do I do? And I think it's a really easy thing to think that, not just about patriarchy, but when we look at the injustices in the world, it's so easy to go into that mode of it's too much. I can't do anything. How can I fix it? I need to save the world. I need to fix it all. Oh my God. And in a way, while this podcast is in many ways all about, you know, getting rid of spiritual bypassing, in a sense, is it any wonder that so many of us then go down that spiritual bypassing route? Because we get into that place where it just, the idea of making actual tangible change seems so impossible and so overwhelming that we go, it's all right, I'll just sit on my meditation mat and and all will be fine. And I don't have to think about it and I can say that I'm doing something. I kind of get it.
Yeah. And it's almost like, you know, the system is designed to put us into overwhelm, isn't it? It's like when you look at everything that has transpired, that has literally happened over the last 4,000-5,000 years, you just look at it and you go, where the fuck do I start? Where do I start pulling a thread? Where do I start unraveling? What do I do? Because it's so big and it's so overwhelming, all of the shit that's going down in the world. And I get it. Like I sometimes sit here and I feel completely paralyzed. And then I'm like, no, but like inside of me, there's something that's going, okay, I can make a difference. I can do something. Within me, I can do something, right? And I'm like intrigued by your comment about the spiritual bypassing as well, because like for me, I feel like I need to work on me and sort my own shit out and my own patriarchal thinking and views. But it's not about sitting on my meditation mat. It's about doing my inner work so that I can facilitate change.
I see that. And that's where sacred activism, there is a big difference. Yeah. It's called sacred activism and what we call spiritual bypassing, right? Because you can sit there and you can try and love and light it all away in yourself and within the world, and that will take you so far. but it won't fix anything. However, if you get in there and do the deep work, get in there and shift stuff, I'm at the moment, I'm editing a book called Good Girl Deprogramming that is all literally deprogramming the conditioning that we have been given as women in this world. If you get in there and deprogram that within yourself, which I'm sure, everybody listening to this has done, is doing to some point, you will get to a place where you have kind of broken down all of that diminishment within yourself.
Yeah.
And that's how you change the world.
Yeah.
One person at a time is how we change the world, is we work on our own shit, and then we inspire other people to do the same. We then are putting more shit out into the world, so it's easier to clean up, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
We have to work, but not in a way that is like, if I just pretend, if I just do what everybody else is doing, then it'll all be fine.
And I feel like saying like something a little bit tangible about this. So like an example that I want to use is, like I'm rereading my book at the moment because I'm recording an audiobook like for it. And then I was looking at some of the stuff that I'd written about like the patriarchy and the things that I've said. And I thought to myself, the fact that I got out of something simple like my people pleasing modes when I was in corporate, right? Where I allowed myself to be taken advantage of and all of that type of stuff. When I started setting boundaries with the people around there, I was able to shift things, and I inspired other people to set boundaries, and therefore the people who were taking advantage of us had to redo their ways, right? So, and on a practical level, fighting the patriarchy isn't fucking just going in there and blowing shit up and tearing things down. It's me taking back my own power in a very practical way where I can set boundaries, where I believe that I'm worth something. I don't need to be treated like shit, blah, blah, blah. And then I inspire other people to be in the same space. Okay, so like equality, like if something bad's happening in my community, whatever, if I change, it starts to change the whole cycle. And I think that's the practicality of fighting the patriarchy.
Completely. And, that's not to say that you can't go and march. It's not to say that you can't be doing shelters. It's not to say that you can't, and equally, doing anti-racism work and anti-homophobia work and transphobia work and all of that stuff. Absolutely. This stuff is important. And it is also to say that on those moments that feels entirely crushing, there is still something you can do. On those moments it feels entirely overwhelming. When I was doing the Lilith workshop the other day, one of the things that came through from Lilith very strongly was this idea of, the snake symbolizes the feminine. And let's not forget that when we look at a single teeny tiny snake slithering along the ground, you'd go, God, how's that going to cope? It's on its belly, got no legs, there's lots that it can't do. It takes down predators that are however many times it says. It doesn't just take down those prey. It doesn't just take down those prey. It freaking swallows them whole. Like, we have to remember that actually we can do amazing things.
Yeah.
But it starts by figuring out almost what our superpowers are and working with them, by figuring out who we are. It starts by looking at our shit.
Yeah.
Working on that.
Yeah, exactly. Because if I don't know myself, if I don't understand myself, if I allow myself to basically be in this space where I believe other people need to show me the way, my power comes from it's just like, that's where the shift needs to start. Because I can only see how I can change the world if I can look through this clear view out of myself, right? Like, this is like, I'm looking at it, I'm going, well, shit, if I can teach people to not fucking people please anymore, that makes a big difference, right? Like, it's like a simple example, but like, that matters. Every little thing you do to empower yourself will make a little difference. And it's like a big fucking puzzle. We're all just like, we're putting our pieces in, right?
Absolutely. And isn't it interesting? There was something you just said there that I was like, oh my God, yes. And then I got distracted by you talking about the puzzle pieces that I was like, yes. I find it, it's gone, never mind. I find it just so fascinating that when we think about this, we look at ourselves and we look at what it is that we need to do. That was it, the know yourself thing.
Yeah.
We look to it, in this industry that we are part of, the love, light and bullshit part of this, we hear these words, know thyself, all the time.
Yes.
They're over the top of the temple at the oracle at Delphi. That's why we know they're important, because the oracles at Delphi obviously lived by this. In order for them to be able to see into spirit, to channel from spirit, to share that guidance, to share those messages, they had to know themselves so that they could be a clear channel. And we look at that and we go, oh, so that must mean that what I have to do is have a journal. And that must mean that what I have to do is meditate. And those things are great. And if that is all of the knowing yourself you're doing, then well done. You've probably read 2 pages of your own book. Like, it goes deeper. Do you remember, I don't know about you, when I was at corporate, we always used to have that, whenever we used to do personal development, we used to have that Johari window. Do you remember that one? It's like
No.
a development exercise, and it's a square that is split into 4.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Okay, yeah.
There's the section of what you know about yourself and other people know, what you know about yourself but other people don't know, what you don't know about yourself but other people know, and what you don't know about yourself and other people also don't know. And the aim of personal development, according to these guys who developed this thing, who, if memory serves, were called Joe and Harry, but that's by the by, is to extend out the bit that is what you know about yourself and what others know, or at least to extend out the bits that you know about yourself, so that the bits that you don't know get smaller and smaller. And that's hard work.
Yeah.
Let us be clear here, this work of knowing thyself, it's not a class. I sit there in my sweaty Betty leggings, and I sit there and I feel really cool with my friends, and then I come home and everything's fine. Fucking hard work.
Yeah.
It's sitting in, and it can be different things to different people. But for example, if I think about the knowing thyself work I've done this year, because I haven't got this cracked, knowing thyself is a continual journey of learning more and more and more. This year, my knowing thyself work has involved therapy sessions in which I have sobbed until I had snot and tears all over my face. It has involved sitting literally on the floor going, I don't know how I get over this. I don't know how I get over this. It's involved voice notes to friends, you being one of them, where I've gone, but this is just who I am and I can't change it because I don't know how. Until friends, you being one of them, have gone, will you snap out of it and stop being so pathetic? Here's what I see when I look at you, get a grip. You're much more polite than that.
Sometimes.
All of those things and more.
Mm.
It involved standing on the edge of a rocky cliff, figuratively, and saying, okay, so if there is a gun to my head and I either have to jump off this cliff and face all of my greatest fears on the way down, I don't know why I'm mixing so many metaphors, or get shot in the head, I'm just going to take the leap and I'm going to face all of my fears and all of my scariest things and all of the things that make me go, I don't think I want to know that about myself. I don't think I want to admit that about myself, because that's the only way that I know myself. And the gun to my head, by the way, I don't know why I mixed all those metaphors, is patriarchy, is staying in this conditioned sense.
Yes.
Where we stay in a world and we stay in our own bodies, feeling separate, feeling disempowered, feeling like we're beholden to somebody else, and so on and so forth. No thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it is about feeling it all. It's just like, and I mean, yeah, you know me well enough to know this is all we do all the time, right? Like, we are literally deconditioning. But the beauty of it is, through the tears and everything and the snot and I always feel like I'm in the mud and I'm like, ugh. But it's like, through that, those moments of like absolute connection, those moments of absolute clarity, those beautiful moments that I experience as part of this deep fucking journey, is just like, this is what keeps driving me, because I'm like, whoa, man, like, you know, if I can get to that space, and it's just not, it doesn't feel like a race to me, because it's like, this stuff is part of life. It has to be, it's duality. There's going to be hard stuff. There's going to be beautiful stuff. It's like, it's never just going to be like, whoa, you know, there's going to be moments of that. But like, the reality of being in this planet, this form, all of it, is that this stuff is part of it. Like, we're not meant to be numb. We're not meant to just be sat here and watching Netflix, even though I love watching Netflix when I like don't deal with my shit. But it's just like, you know, it's just like, it's there's so balance is so needed in this like mission to decondition ourselves.
It really is. And we need that balance of recognizing. And again, I think this is part of it's the lie of the wellness industry. It's the lie of the spirituality industry at the moment, is this idea that wellness is a goal that we are stretching towards. And when we get there, we're probably gonna look exactly like, I don't know, Gwyneth Paltrow or somebody. Life is going to be perfect. We're going to have millions in the bank, and everything is just going to be like, we're going to have that absolutely perfect life. That's not what this is about. It's not even what wellness is about. Wellness is a flowing balance, where some days wellness, you being well, where some days you being attuned to your body will be, it might be you hiking through the mountains in leggings with a really tight butt. And other days it'll be curled up on your sofa watching Netflix, eating, I don't know, through an entire packet of chocolate bars or something. Wellness is balance. Wellness is a continual flow. It is not a goal that we strive towards. And knowing ourselves is part of that. I think it's one of my biggest issues I have with this industry is the fact that so often when we move into it early on, it's a little bit like being in the Girl Guides. We feel like we've got to collect all of the badges. So I've done a crystal healing certificate. I've done my Reiki training. I've been to a sound bath. I've done this. And there are benefits to that because, by exploring all the different avenues, we figure out which ones are ours and what we want to pursue. But also there seems to be this idea, like I cannot tell you how many times I've had clients who've gone, but I've done it all and I'm not happy yet. And I'm like, that's because you're not looking inside of you. One. And it's because two, the goal isn't happiness. But the goal's never been happiness. It's, well, for me, it's something different. But happiness it's a false goal. It's a false god in many senses.
Yeah, exactly. And it's again something we've been sold. And if you put it back into a patriarchal construct, like there's this perfection that we've been told that we need to live up to, right? Like if you think about just like how we've been sold, everything we've been sold is for this ideal, this perfection, all of that. And you have to do all of this to get there, where most of us will never get there. So you're never going to be that person. So what if you are just you? What if you are wild and free and messed up and happy and sad and all of that? Because this fucking perfection goal that they keep selling us is not the reality of what we are. Like we're messy, we're like human, for God's sake. It's just like we keep forgetting this, and then we fall into that trap again of everything that we've been sold.
Completely. And I think it's so easy to forget. And I mean, we say this as two people who we do this work for a living. So let's be clear, like we sell pathways forward ourselves. So in some ways it can perhaps sound like there is a hypocrisy here. Now, I would argue we do it differently, but I want to call that out here and now, because what I want to say is, let's not forget that in the commodification of wellness, in the commodification of spirituality, equally in the commodification of witchcraft, in the commodification of feminism, anytime we are commodifying something to the point that there is some Instagram influencer, with no offense to them, that you look at and go, oh my God, I need to be like them. That is what this looks like. That is the model. And I have to buy all of the things and do all of the things and become somebody different until it looks like that. Even rewilding. The whole point of being a wild woman is going away from I should be like somebody else and going, who am I? Who am I? What do I look like? There are amazing books and courses and all of the things out there on rewilding that I would recommend to anybody. And there is a narrative of this is how it will look when you are a wild woman. By the way, it looks nothing of the sort, because I don't know about you, but me being wild is not me being like perfectly made up with perfect hair, standing there with my boobs out, but at a perfect angle, so that when my hands are in front of them, I have perfect cleavage. Like that's not how I look when I'm in my wild state. I generally look like I've been dragged through a hedge backwards, and I might be like have my bum out or something. I don't know, but I don't look like those models. Anytime we are given a perfect image of this is how this should look, spoiler alert, that's sold to you. And it's by being sold to you, I mean, it's been sold to you by, there's that word again, patriarchy, by capitalism, by somebody who's trying to tell you are not good enough as you are. You are not enough. Then that makes it defeats the point.
Oh, and that's so true, isn't it? And it's just like that, because we do that, like, and it's like we don't know how to do it differently unless we stop ourselves from doing it and becoming aware of it. Because I know when I started this journey, I had my idols and my, my people, and were like, oh, I want to be like her. She's so awesome. And I want to work, my work must look like her work and all. And then like it just kind of started unraveling, and it's like most of the time it's just a shit show running my business, right? And it's not anything like those people that I aspired to be like. And I remember my husband saying to me at one stage, like, stop trying to be like that. Like, he even noticed like me trying so hard to be this thing that I was not, and he was like, this is why you're so unhappy. And I'm like, you're right, this is why I'm so unhappy, because I'm trying to be like them. And it's just like, my life is messy, and my business is chaotic, and I'm not consistent, and Instagram's a mess, and the colors are fucked, and like ugh, and the photos are really bad, and it's fine, that's me. And the people who want to engage with my work is fine with me being me, and that's okay. Like, I'm not, like, the makeup's not, none of the shit's done. And that's the beauty of, like, I feel like deconditioning, reclaiming, just coming back into that space.
Absolutely. And it doesn't mean that we can't do these things. Like, there is a very small number now of people who I absolutely would work with them, who I go, yeah, it's on my vision board that one day I would like to do a course with her.
Yeah.
Because I really like our way of portraying herself and our work into the world, or whatever it may be. We're not seeing, oh, here we go. Light us back for those who aren't watching. We're not saying that you must be an island and you must do this all yourself. We're not. There are guides, there are helpers, there are incredible people out there who are doing incredible work. We're also not saying that even if you want to go and do, I don't know, a meditation class with one of these Insta perfect people, you can't and you shouldn't. We find things from the places we're drawn to. It's absolutely fine. Like, but what we are saying is, we don't have to be them. We don't have to follow anyone else's path to get to where we want to be. We have to turn inwards and look at ourselves, because what the world needs to change it is not a million people doing exactly the same thing. Actually, that's the very definition of a broken world, is people just following blindly. What changes the world is when people come back to themselves and do what they're here to do. I think about, I mean, I'm sure we've talked about this before, but it took me 7 years to write my last book. And a big part of the first bit of that, like you were just talking about with your business there, Yolandi, was I had read so many books in this industry. I had one person in particular that I was quite close to, who was quite a successful author in this industry. And I was like, well, I must write like her. Her books are successful, so I need to write like her. And I tried for probably about the first 4 years of that writing process to write my book in her style. Guess what? It didn't work, because they weren't her ideas, they weren't her thoughts, it wasn't her book. It was my book, and it needed to be my voice.
Yeah.
And similarly, I tried for the longest time. People are always telling me that my speaking voice is a one that I need to use. It has a power and I need to use it. And for the longest time, I was like, but I don't. My accent means that I don't talk with that very posh. When I lead meditations, my meditations are often they're often quite fast. And there's times where I get really expressive and I'm like, oh my God, there's a tree there. Look, a tree. I'm not going to sound the way other people do. And for the longest time, I was like, oh, well, then I can't put my voice out there. You don't need to sound like somebody else. You don't need to write like someone else. You don't need to look like someone else. Your journey doesn't need to be like someone else, because what changes the world, what breaks down patriarchy, is not doing what somebody else does and being who someone else is. Sorry, I'm just being leapt on by a small chef. It's being you. It's coming back.
Yeah. And I think for me, that is one of the key elements of breaking this structured thing down, right? Like, being me is gonna piss off a whole lot of people, and that's a good thing. Because I heard this cool word the other week, and I have no idea where I heard it, and I'm sure it was in the show, but it was like they called them sheeple, so sheep people. And I'm like, it was such a cool word, and I'm like, oh my God, like, I don't want to be a sheeple. I don't want to look like you. I don't want to think like you. I don't want to dress like you. I don't want to do anything like anyone else. And even yesterday I was on the spa day, and I found myself swimming against the stream, and my friend was laughing at me because she's like, fuck, look at you. You're going against the stream. Everyone else is going with the stream and you're swimming up the stream. And I'm like, oh, yes, but how, for me, it's like part of my work is to inspire people to swim against the stream. That's why I don't want to look, sound, be whatever. And I've figured that out. I didn't know this 7, 8 years ago when I started this journey, but I've always known it deep inside of me because I've never been like other people. So me getting to know myself gave myself permission to be the fucking weirdo freak that I am right now. And I'm really happy in that space within myself. So, like, just see like where, and I'm not saying it's bad to be like, there's certain things in the world where it's okay, but there's certain times when you know that you're swimming with the stream when you should be going against it, and those are the times when you need to speak up and do something.
And I think it's so right. That's so true. And it's so right what you say about the fact that there are certain times when it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
think about when we're teenagers, right? Do you remember that thing when you were a teenager where everybody was an individual, but they were all individuals who dressed, who talked the same, who did the same things, who were all over the place, kind of just carbon copies of one another. But we're so individual.
Mm.
And in a sense, as adults or as older teenagers, even, you look at those kids and you kind of roll your eyes a bit. But actually, that's an important part of the journey. It's not, I don't mean that to be condescending. It's an important part of every journey, is to move through that place where you've got your people and you feel like you can kind of just tread a little toe out and be individual, and then go back to the safety of being like everybody else, and then tread a little toe. It's in those treading just the tip of your toe out that you find the courage and you build the courage to jump out. It's in those moments of tiptoeing out that you find the courage and you build the courage, but you find the awareness and you build the awareness to know what it looks like when you're like, here I am out of the freak closet, ta-da! Like, it's in these moments. So it's absolutely fine if there are also moments where you are a sheeple. Like, it's okay, but just don't stay there all the time. You weren't always built to be part of the herd. The people who will keep us as a herd, the people who would have us as a herd, are the people who are trying to stop us breaking out of their molds.
Mm-hmm.
And while it's fine to I'm watching Yellowstone at the moment, so I'm all about the livestock. While it's fine to come back into your herd temporarily,
Yeah.
there are also times you need to run free and wild. Because if you don't run free and wild, you're still being controlled.
Yeah. Oh man, that's beautiful. And it is that, isn't it? Because we all want to belong at the end of the day, but what if we could all just belong and in our own uniqueness, right? Like, we don't all have to look like, brown bisons or whatever. Like, it's actually, there's a pink bison and there's a green bison and this one has got like a weird thing sticking out her head or whatever. But like if our herds were more inclusive, wouldn't it be so beautiful? Like, we can still be together, but we don't all have to look and think the same. So we could be shiny sheeple,
But isn't that a key to this? It almost takes us right back to the start, which is, how do we break down patriarchy and all of the other structures of dominance and control that we get so irate and so angry about? Well, actually, we start by looking into ourselves, and we also then look at what we are doing in our lives and go, how much am I living in the molds that they've put out for us?
Yeah.
So how much is my life, my friendship circle, my professional circle, etc., part of this bland herd? How much am I actually exploring? How much am I stepping out and learning about the world and meeting new people and going to, invite in the ideas and the opinions of people who think differently to me so that I can learn more?
Yeah.
That's how we break out of the herds. That's how we do something differently. And it is breaking out of those groups and those patterns that we break down the structures of power and control bit by bit.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And I'm just thinking, because for me, like something like travel or meeting new people, whatever, it always feels like my mind expand because I see new cultures and all of that type of stuff. So I see how other people live. It's not just my little Western middle class life that I'm used to. And I get to experience everything. And then I walk around, my mind feels more open because I'm like, oh, I need to consider this in life, or I need to consider that. So like, even our ability just to start by recognizing things are different and being curious about the world out there and people who you perceive as being different to you, right? Like, that's like the small things we can also do. It's just like, that will help you to open up your mind and look at things differently and cultivate like connection with other groups and stuff like that as well, right? So it's just like, I don't know, it's like there's something about this openness and our open-mindedness that can make those structures crumble in a very significant way, right? In a very, because it's been about separation all the fucking time.
And they are, like, let's be clear, they are crumbling. It's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
Same way that the Roman Empire wasn't built in a day. The structures that it eventually led to will not fall in a day.
Mhm.
Probably will not fall in a year or a decade. They will take time. Maybe they will, and I'm underestimating it. And in a year's time, we'll be sitting like that here, like, look at the build. They will take time because they took time to build. And it's really easy to get despondent with that. Like the kid, you know, when if you're cooking something in the oven and the kids are coming in the kitchen every 5 minutes, go, Mom, is it ready? Is it ready? Is it ready yet? Is it ready? It's really easy to get like that.
Yeah.
But if we can keep focusing on us, if we can almost keep our channel clear, the more we can clear out our own channel, the speedier things will move along. The more we can start to really, you know, the more distracted we'll be. So we won't be sat there going, is it ready yet? Is it ready yet? We'll be actually going, where am I now? How do I feel? How can I help other people? What am I doing?
Yeah. 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 And I think it is just like, for me, it's like make a start, right? Like start working on yourself, start digging deeper, start doing your thing. And then as you do that, like, where's your little connection points? What do you like to do? How do you like to help? Like, what are you doing in the world? What are you doing around in your community? I just, you know, there's so many practical things we can do to start change. And it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to fucking be a huge famous person to start change. And this is what I feel so passionate about that at the moment, because every single one of us matters so much in this web.
100%. And, you know, like in those moments where you are feeling, I can't, it's too much. It's all too much. I feel overwhelmed. I feel like burdened by the pressure of it. Remember what makes you you. It generally starts with what brings you joy. And it also starts with looking at what feels really freaking uncomfortable to look at, that duality. And also connection. The more we connect and open and learn, and those, if you can go through these two simple things, turn inward and connect outward, they're the pathways to change.
I love that. Can we put that on a poster? Oh, beautiful. Oh, okay. So I think we've kind of like reached our time, and I think we've both said what we wanted to say today.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you so much. That was a really good conversation. And thank you, Yolandi, and also anybody who's watching, for bearing with Lagatha's manicness.
I don't think it was that bad, and I'm really happy to have her. She can come back again. That's fine.
Your house next time, then I'll ship her down.
Then I can play with her. Awesome. So, yeah, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, leave us some comments. Let us know what you think. We'd love to know. Like and subscribe and doing all those good things. And yeah, I think we'll be back next month.
Next month. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Have a fantastic day. And thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. Lots of love.